Welcome to Straight to the Point. I'm your host, Representative Joe D'Orsi. In a world of long-windedness, I'm here to deliver you the Capitol news in 10 minutes or less. So, let's get straight to the point. So this is the Straight to the Point podcast. I have a very special guest. He's actually my neighbor in York County from the 196th Legislative District, the Appropriations Chair. Minority Appropriations Chair, sadly. Seth Grove. Seth, thanks for joining me.
No problem, Joe. Great to be. Congratulations. You've been great to work with. Mastering the skill of being a legislator very, very well. Take good care of your residents. You pick the right battles, right issues. So we're really glad to have you.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So we have the task of, in about 9.5 minutes, getting into the weeds, kind of. Seth, you're the Appropriations Chair for a reason. You're really good with numbers. You're really good with budgeting. So let's start there. First of all, define budget impasse for our listeners.
Right. So there's different levels of budget impasse. We've had full budget impasses. If you recall, Governor Wolf's first budget, once elected, that went 9 months. We didn't have appropriations bill. We had nothing. So that is the full budget impasse. Where we're at is a little different. So we have the general appropriations bill, and the budget itself is multiple bills. So you have a general appropriations bill. That's the big thing everybody thinks once passed, the budget is done. You also have trailer bills. So the PUC and a couple agencies aren't in the general appropriations bill. They need funding. There's about 8 of those. They're all done. Right, so most of your stuff, and all the general appropriations bill does is that state agency, you can spend up to this amount of money, and that gives the legal, constitutional requirement for the treasurer to then pay bills as bills are expended and as state agencies spend money. And then you have kind of follow-up stuff. So you have the non-preferred state-related schools, 2/3 vote. That's a specialized bill, and then you have the code bills. Those code bills are important because that directs how that money in the general appropriations is spent. So that's us legislatively telling a state agency, you shall only spend on this, or you shall not spend on this. So it's a very important tool for us to direct how that spending goes.
So the money is there.
Yes.
We just don't know exactly where it's going.
We know where it's going, just some of it can't be executed or spent because they don't have the proper language in those code bills to spend the money. It's about $1.1 billion.
Okay.
And it's kind of a weird spot. So you and me, we're good fiscal conservatives. So we don't like the fact that this year's budget spends more than what we have available. It's a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. We just happen to have a lot of money sitting in surplus, so they're using all these surplus dollars to fill that void. At some point, those surplus dollars are spent, and then you're at a probably in the next 4 years a $5 to $7 billion deficit.
Yeah,
major problem.
That's a novel idea. Thinking ahead.
Right. So by not having that $1.1 billion, we're still spending more than but it's less, right? Mm-hmm. So you're really down to probably, we're probably at $2 billion over spending than what we have. That'll take it down to $900 million. Better. So you don't get it done, there's certain things that aren't going to get funded.
Yeah. So we're back in session 11, 12, and 13 of December. Mm-hmm. It's the hope, I guess, of both chambers to finalize things. Right. What exactly, you mentioned the $1.1 billion that doesn't yet have a name tag on it.
Right.
What exactly is pending yet?
Right. So we did the Human Services Code. That was important to get funding to hospitals. There's about $2 to $3 billion that of hospital funding that if we didn't get that done, we would have hospitals closed by now, which would be bad for Pennsylvanians. There's the big one's called the Fiscal Code. That has every state agency in it, and it directs a lot of funding. That has a permanent section and then an annual section. Annual section expires at the end of the fiscal year. So the last fiscal code of last fiscal year is now expired. That is a big trigger point in not having money go out that we already approved. And then you have, for the first time ever, the executive branch, Josh Shapir's administration, came back and said, if you don't have language for the new programs that were added to the budget, if you don't have fiscal code language to direct how that money is spent, that can't even be spent. So the level up funding for education, which goes to the 100 lowest funded schools traditionally, that money is not going on. That was a big Democrat ask. The House Democrats wanted that. Josh asked for that, and that's part of Actually, why we have a budget impasse, because the governor negotiated a deal with the Senate Republicans on a school choice bill. The Lifeline scholarships, or PASS as it was renamed. It was agreed to. The House Democrats thumbed their nose at it, so Josh ended up line item vetoing it out. Campaign promise on his end, as well as something he is still out there advocating.
The door is still open, we heard just this past week.
Supposedly. We'll
Yes.
see. I assume he's going to include that in his new budget proposal. So that's the big linchpin, and that education code's pretty important. The Senate Republicans tried. They got a school choice bill, EITC, OSTC increase, tax credit program to fund students at failing schools, $150 million increase, passed 45-5. Right? Republicans and Democrats joined together in the state Senate to pass an education code that funded students, not institutions.
And did a single House Democrat, Seth, vote for that when
No.
it came over?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep. They stripped it out of rules, and then they brought it up on the House floor, and nobody cared about it. Do you know the next day the Appropriations Chairman held a hearing in Bucks County and advocated how wonderful and supportive they are of the ITC program?
There's a word for that. I think it's hypocrisy.
Right. And that's where we're at. And it's very frustrating because we are heading into December. That's a midpoint of a fiscal year. The next fiscal year, we have the governor's budget address coming up in February, where he will unleash his priorities for the next budget. We'll then have budget hearings, and end of the fiscal year is in June. It is right now, I don't think, possible to finish out this fiscal year with the fiscal code, the education code. Those are two critical things we need to get done. I don't see it happening because of the failed leadership of the House Democrats.
Yeah, so we've talked about the budget impasse and the long delays on simple things that oftentimes you would consider bipartisan issues. That's not the only form of ineffectiveness we've seen this session. We've not seen many bills passed into law.
Right.
Can you talk about, with the House Democrats in charge, of course, what we've seen come through our chamber, how ridiculous some of these things are?
So libertarians should be so happy this year. And part of my libertarian is like, the General Assembly is not in session. The old joke is like your money is safe, right? Nothing bad's going to happen. But traditionally, we have about 50 to 80 bills that pass in that June time frame. Like by the end of June, we have about 50 to 80 bills signed into law. We had 15, 9 of which were appropriations bills. So we had 6 standalone bills signed into law by the end of June. And, one was, no co-pays or health insurance for breast cancer. It was a very nice
Which
bill.
is nice, but
Right.
not a substantive piece of
I think there was a
legislation.
bridge namer, and
Yep.
it was a lot of little stuff that I don't like. Someone in Pennsylvania cares about. I don't think anybody is like jumping up in joy like you solved big problems.
Yep.
Think of all the big problems out there facing our country and our state. None of it was solved.
Yeah.
So it's gotten a little better. The log jam seems to be broken a little, but it's still a little bit dink and dunk. Like little things are happening. But hopefully they're building some trust among all parties where you can actually get some stuff done. But again, we see the education code last week completely fail because the majority party of the House, the Democrats, refused to come to the table and do a simple bill to help students trapped in failing schools.
Yeah. So lightning round here. We have about 30 seconds left. Let's peer ahead into 2024. That's hard for us to do because you and I alike have no idea what's going to even happen on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of next month. 2024, what are your hopes? What are you sensing?
I'm really worried about even getting a budget done. There's a lot of mistrust, inability to do big things, and the budget is a big thing. Obviously, this budget was completed through broken promises and a lot of backstabbing. I don't know how we actually get a budget done next year, and that's a big thing. It's the largest policy document you do. I see the House Democrats continuing to play politics over helping Pennsylvanians. So they're going to do abortion, 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 and more abortion for the next few months, mixed in with some other stuff.
Seth Grove, 196th Legislative District, Minority Appropriations Chair in the House. Seth, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it.
This has been Straight to the Point. Visit repjod.com/mypodcasts.